So this is the second part of a video about how to build this HKS dashboard. We, in the first part, created all the different charts individually. Now we need to put them together so they'll interact with each other. And we also want to enable the users to control some of these filters and highlighters. Um, so this is actually the dashboard building process. Let's go back to Tableau and take a look at what we have and what we need to make. So we have the data tables, we have the column chart, the line chart, the tree map, two tree maps, a bullet chart. Before we actually build any dashboards, I want to um, make sure you understand how to create these embedded tooltip charts. So the idea behind a tooltip interaction is in any dashboard or any chart, you can get details on demand. To get details on demand, for example, if I hover over one of these, let's say race, you could say, this doesn't show me change over time. This is summing up all the MPPs across the 5 years. There's 1,116 MPPs. But how did that change from 2018 to 2023? Well, you will have to go to the line chart and see this and change some of the filters and zoom into that specific segment over here. So that's one way to do it manually. But it'll be much more convenient if I could just move my mouse over and it shows me a tooltip of the line chart. So the way to do this is you open up the tooltip, and the tooltip typically shows whatever information that's typed into here. So the reason you're seeing degree program and the value of the degree program is because that's what Tableau is able to, by default, show because these variables are in here. And you can edit it. You can insert more variables and delete other variables in this area. These are the variable lists. What I like to do is actually insert a specific chart, the line chart, into here. So the line chart is also in insert, but instead of going to these variables or any of these other items, go to sheet, choose line. And that's all you have to do. If you say OK to here, I send my mouse over here. It's showing me the MPP change over time, number of students. This is the MPA2, change over time, number of students, and so on and so forth. So it dynamically will filter the data according to where the user puts their mouse over. So it's a very convenient, super powerful details on demand functionality that you can add just with one click. If I wanted to show the bullet chart of, for example, how the race and degree programs compared to the US Census, what I would do is I go to tooltip and add a new chart, maybe above this, and insert the bullet chart. That's how it looks. Now I'm getting two charts. This doesn't work because the bullet chart shows 100%, so it's actually not a good idea because when you filter it, the percentage, the part of a whole, the quick table calculation calculates 100%. So I won't recommend it. The bullet chart is not a good chart to insert in this case. What it's doing is it's actually going to the bullet chart and it's filtering out the other categories. And that's why it's always going to be 100%. So ignore that tip. But this is, you do have to use your judgment as to what type of chart to insert. It has to make sense from a data perspective. Okay, so let's remove this. So you can just go in and delete bullet chart. Okay, a little bit of detour, but the idea is the same. You can put any chart that is useful to get details and demand. And so let's continue. Let's make the dashboard now that you know how to do these kind of tooltip charts. So this is not part of the dashboard. This you can do for any single chart as long as you have another worksheet, another chart that's available for you to insert to here. If you want, for example, the data table of how many students, you can, let's try a different one. Let's go to the column chart. You want the data table of values. You can go to tooltip and insert the data table, so table from HKS, and then say OK. And now it's showing you the data table. Okay. So it's very convenient. Sometimes it makes sense. Most of the time, it might not make sense. So use it very sparingly, because sometimes having too many things pop up at you, it could be very distracting and cover up the rest of the chart. So let's open a new dashboard by clicking on this grid icon, which is this one. It says new dashboard. So now you're in dashboard mode. We're gonna drag some of the data over here. So the easiest thing is to just first work with the data tables. You can drag the HKS one here. This is actually the census. I mislabeled it, so I'm gonna rename this to be census. So if you change it already exists, but it's okay. And then this is just to correct my mistake from earlier. Okay. So you have the census here, it's okay. In the dashboard, you go to dashboard 1. You drag the HKS one maybe here, and then you drag the, there's one more here that I did not put. Oh, so I made another data table, but for the sake of this purpose, this video, let's put this here. And sometimes they don't fit the whole space, so you go to the down arrow, you go to fit, try the entire view, and then the same here, go to fit. You might not be able to see this, it's a little off the screen, but let's look at this one. You go to fit, this is how you do entire view. So now it kind of squishes it a little bit, but that's okay. I'm gonna do the same for all of these. Sometimes you just want to do the width. But if you just do the width, for example, here, there's a scroll bar, so the user will have to know how to scroll. Alternatively, you can increase the size of the height of the dashboard like this, and hopefully it might fit if you increase it tall enough. So now it's tall enough. There's no scroll bar. Avoid scroll bars, adding scrolling if you can. Okay, so this is one dashboard. You might want to name the dashboard. If you click on this show dashboard title, click on it and say this is actually let's just name it here. You can edit the name heat on top of here, or you can just rename the sheet. Dashboard and call it table. Okay. And of course, you should name when you in the real world name this something much more meaningful. You can just delete the title and type something. Okay. Okay, let's continue. That's one dashboard, dashboard 1. Let's create a second dashboard. Dashboard 2 would have, I'm gonna make this just all the charts and make it interactive and show you this, how to make it interactive. So we have, let's say, the column chart over here, and then we want to add a tree map below it, so drag the tree map. Do we want to use the tree map race or the tree map degree program? I think it makes sense to use the degree program. So let's use the degree program, tree map degree. To the right of it, I want the bullet chart. So drag bullet like somewhere here. If you have trouble finding gaps or creating space, you can create just a horizontal spacer or like a placeholder like this. You can use either the vertical container or the horizontal container and then drop it here. And once you have the spacer, you can drag the item you want. In this case, the line chart goes here. That's fine. So we have 4 charts. I can move this around because there's some empty space, so I might want to give it more width so it builds up space. I don't need the line chart to be that wide. This has a scroll bar again, so I need to maybe give it more height, and that looks fine. And so you just make some adjustments. Make sure it's somewhat aligned and aesthetically pleasing. If you want to open up some empty space, you can add some empty space here and then resize. So it's always open, give it some more air to breathe. Always good to have some empty space, gaps. For example, here, you have to drop your mouse just in the right spot and let go of the mouse. So the idea is really to not overcrowd and clutter the design. So that's how I use empty space. Of course, you have to add a title. Let's call this dashboard with actions. So we're gonna just make two for this video. 1, 2. If you want to navigate between the two, allow the user to go back and forth. You can add buttons on top of it. So the navigation buttons, let's go to the table, right? Let's say I want a navigation button right here on the right of it, to the right of this here somewhere. You choose navigation and you drag it into here. It's like PowerPoint. You drag a button into here. You can rename this button. Go to actions. That's one button. And realize that there's an option here to select where it should go to. And we have a dashboard of actions here. So select that one. That's great. And you can resize this and so on. If you, let's say, you can add spacers. You can add another button, navigation button to the left of it. It's hard to kind of control exactly where you drag it, but you can move things later. You can add some spacers. Go to the horizontal vertical spacers, and let's drag some space here, drag this here, and drag this to the right of it. You see, it's kind of like you see the gray drop zone. Once you see the gray drop zone, you're in good shape. This is the gray drop zone. Okay, and then you can resize all these as much as you like. Yeah, and so that's low, not so great, but an alternative way is you can drag this. I don't even know where it's going. It's here. Okay, if you get confused, go undo. Another option is you can make it floating in dashboard design. There's this notion of layout, floating, and floating is exactly what it means. It's floating anywhere. You can put it anywhere you like. So if I want to put it here, I can just let go and leave it here. So that's floating. This you can also make floating. If you uncheck the floating, you'll snap into the grid. So floating. And then this could, if I make it floating, this could go here. The disadvantage of floating is sometimes when you resize everything else, it doesn't resize properly. So you always have to keep repositioning it if you change other aspects of the chart. But for now, I think it's okay. I don't recommend floating, but sometimes if you're really stuck, you can use floating. Okay, so let's edit this. You can just double click, or you can go to the drop down and choose edit the button. I'm going to name this, this is the table. So I just call it table. And it's not going to change. It's just most navigations, you need the button, even if you're on the page already. It's just grayed out. You can't click on it. We'll make the same for the dashboard actions. We're going to go to the dashboard, add those two navigation elements. It's okay if it's out of place. We have to first name it. The title should be go to tables. Tables, that's fine. And then you should navigate to the dashboard tables. And then let's make this floating, just like what we did before. And then drag it, let's say right here. If you mess up, go undo. Make the height a little less tall, somewhere here. Okay. And just for the sake of completeness, I'm going to add another button that doesn't go anywhere. It's just so so a keyboard shortcut is as you can check and uncheck, but you can also hold down the shift key. If you hold down the shift key, you'll turn it into floating, not floating. But the best way, the shortest way is to check and uncheck. Okay. Okay, so let's give it a name. This is I double clicked, but you could go to edit button and give this name actions, because we're on the actions page. We're not going to set it to go anywhere. It's going to stay here, and deactivate the button. Okay, let's test this out. You might not be able to see the test. I don't think you'll see this test, but it does work. Okay. And from a design perspective, you always want the buttons to be positioned in the same order so it doesn't jump around on the user. So the actions go to the right is the second button, and the tables is the first button. So tables actions. If you switch around, users will get confused. It should be consistent. Okay. Now we know how to do the navigation back and forth. If you want to test it, I believe if you hold down, maybe the okay, I think I did. If you hold down on your keyboard the Alt, A-L-T, Alt key, you can actually make it clickable. Holding down the Alt key and clicking on it will let you test it out. The other way to test it out is going to the presentation mode and testing it out as a presentation. All right. So again, this should be fit into, because we added some items above, you should fit the height. Okay. So how do we make all this interactive? The first step that you might want to try out is these highlighting items. So the user has the ability to click on one and you'll highlight in every chart the item you care about. Notice in this case, the MPA2 or the degree program, it doesn't highlight here because that's not in the chart. That's not in this chart. You'll highlight only the charts that have this variable. Okay, so these are the highlighters. If you don't want this to occur, you actually just move your mouse over to this pencil item and deactivate it. Now the pencil's deactivated, so if you click, it doesn't highlight. I like to turn it on because it's always available. Why not? So here, the pencil mark. We don't have any filters yet. So what if you want to add a filter to filter only for one of the degree programs? Let's say we let the user choose a degree program, and you'll update this entire dashboard and the data underlying it to show only that single degree program. So the first thing you need to do is you select one of the charts, you choose this icon that has like all these settings. The name is High Show Cards. The cards are basically the filter cards, the highlight cards. And you say it's a filter, degree program, here. It's the same as if you had gone to here, any of these previous charts that we made, individual charts we made, and you had gone to the degree program and dragged it here. And then when it's here, you go to show filter. Same idea. So in the dashboard, you access it by selecting here and going to show high cards and selecting filter degree program. So we have this filter. And what happens if I, let's say, remove all? It actually only filters this single chart, but it doesn't apply to everyone else. My goal is to apply to all 4 charts, not just a single chart, not just the column chart. You go into the drop-down arrow. Again, you might not be able to see this. So temporarily, I'm going to move this here, just temporarily, for the sake of making it visible. So I'm going to show you, you go to apply to worksheet, and then you have precise control if you select selected worksheets. So if you choose selected worksheets, the pop-ups comes up, and you can check which of the charts you want this to impact or to update. In this case, we should update all of them. So I check all of them. This is one click to check all of them. Say OK. Now if I uncheck all of them, select MPA, MCMPA, this is only MCA data. You see the label here, and you see the column is only one. I can add another one, so it's going to aggregate and sum up those values. So it's very flexible. And you can imagine using this not just for degree program, but also for the year, for the race and ethnicity. So all you have to do is, for year, you would need to go to here, go to filter, and show year. Okay. And then you can just drag and drop, drag until you've filtered the range of years you care about. Okay. I'm going to move this back. Okay. So now the user has control over these filters. And again, if you want to apply to all the charts, even though these don't have dates, they're summing up, they're aggregating all the years. You can go to apply to worksheet, just like what we did, select the worksheets and choose. I would choose all of them just to make sure the user is not confused. So for the year 2018, this is what we're getting. The line chart obviously has 1 point. This is for that year, and the tree map is showing that year as well. So you can fit this to the width. Yeah. Anyway, so now you know how to use filters. You can also use filters in a more dynamic way. I'm going to turn on everything back on. Make sure you don't forget to, after you do some analysis, to reset it back to show all the values. Okay. This is one way to filter. You can click through these filter controls on the right side. And you don't have to put it on the right side. You can put it anywhere. Sometimes for like a legend, I could, drag this floating. If you make this a floating item, going to layout and floating, you can drag this into here. It has many charts these items have. And then it's still intact. So some legends I like to put directly in the chart. Okay. So that's flexible. Okay. The next step is that what if you let the user interact with these? So because we added this embedded tooltip for some, this chart is updating in real time too. So what if I want to be able to use this as a filter, use any of the items here as a filter, use any of the items here as a filter? It's not intuitive, so you definitely need to explain to the user these are items you could use as filters instead of having to go here. So this is where the one of the options here, this is a second way to do filtering, to enable filtering. You see the funnel icon here. You just click on the funnel icon. Now it's filled. A fill funnel icon means it will filter. So if I click on this icon and this bar and use my mouse and click into it, it filters everything else. Again, this is not intuitive. Most users don't expect this to be a functionality, a clickable item. But sometimes you want like a navigation menu that looks like a visualization, maybe a map. You click on an item in the map and you'll filter all the data below the map. So the way to do that is turn on the filter icon over here. If you disable it, nothing's going to happen if you click. Okay, right. So again, to emphasize, the one way is to use these filter cards to turn it on to this area, right? Another way is to actually just click on the funnel and you'll filter the rest of it. But this way you have more precise control. You can go to apply to worksheet and select the worksheet you want to. If you turn on the filter here, it's going to change every single uh, other all the other charts in this dashboard. So it's a little sometimes over too powerful. So I rarely use it because I want more precise control rather than the funnel. Okay, so that's a second way to do this. A third way to do this, which is probably the most complicated, the most advanced, is to add an action. Dashboard actions are the most powerful, the most flexible. You get very precise control. So the scenario could be something like this. If I click on, let's say, one of these, let's say these categories, these race, I don't want to filter out all the data. Nothing's happening because I haven't had action. So if I were to turn on the funnel on this guy, on this chart, it's going to filter. But I don't want to filter. I just want to highlight it. I want the students who are of the white race to be highlighted, but keep in place all the other ones to see, just to make it stand out. So I could have done this. But instead of having to go here into the legend, I want to let the user directly click on this area, but not to filter it, but to highlight it. So in this scenario, what you will have to do is go to the dashboard, go to action, and you want to add an action, add the highlight action. And this is where all the most precise controls, the most advanced features of controlling the dashboard of these actions can be set up. So we have the bullet chart. So we want to use the bullet chart and turn off all the other charts. The bullet chart is what the user manipulates, what the user either clicks on or hovers. Let's even try hovers to see what happens. And the target sheet is the other sheets. So you might want to uncheck the bullet, and let's keep all the other 3 charts turned on. And that's all you have to do. You set it okay. Notice you set it to hover, not to click. But that means hover just means when you move your mouse over. So I'm expecting if I move my mouse over one of the race bars, it's gonna highlight. It's not gonna filter, but it's gonna highlight because it's highlight action. Okay, let's say okay. This is the name, hover, highlight. Okay, let's go and see what happens. Mouse over. Do you see the interaction? If you want to make it a click, you can just reset it. Go to dashboard, actions, this highlight action. You go to edit it and make sure it's a select as opposed to a hover. Let's see what happens. If I move my mouse over, nothing happens. But if I click into it, it's filtering. I actually don't want it to filter. The reason it's filtering is we have turned on the funnel. So turn off the funnel. And now if I click, it just highlights. Highlighting is, in my mind, in my opinion, much more preferred because you see it in the context of the rest of everything else. Okay, so highlight. So filter, sometimes you lose the view of the rest of the data, and it's not in context. If we go back to the dashboard actions and you kind of deconstruct all these things, you have already these automatically generated, even says generated highlight actions. That's because we either turn on the pencil icon or the funnel icon. So just for example, if I go to the line chart and turn on the funnel, it's gonna, anywhere I click, it's gonna filter. And if I double check the funnel actions, it has generated a third one. It's a filter action. And if I edit this, it's just automatically turned on when I click on any line in the line chart. It updates and filters everything else. It's a filter action. Okay. And if I don't want it, I can delete it. I can remove it. If I remove it, this is turned off. So just 2 different ways to access the settings for this filter. Okay. And so in the action area, the skills you want to learn are the highlight action and the filter action. These 2 are the most important things. And will, will that's where the dashboard interactions can be set very precisely. Okay. This is a lot already. So we just to recap, we have created two dashboard pages. We have the data table and we have the um, charts table with actions. We learned three ways to make actions. One way is to just add in these filters and highlights by going to adding filters, adding highlights. For example, if I do this, it has this highlighting. Okay, that's one way. The second way is you choose one of these charts, turn on the funnel, or you choose one of the highlighters and choose the pencil, and turn it on, and that's highlighting. The funnel will turn on the filters. If the user clicks on any of the items, you'll filter to that item. Okay. And the third way is in the actions menu, go to actions, and you can really precisely control every single interaction that the user is able to take, not take. And lastly, if you do use these filters and in here, these filter cards, you can apply to sheet and always you select the sheet and check the ones that you want it to apply to. So you leave the other ones untouched or not updating. It won't affect the other charts if you uncheck them. You won't filter them. Okay, so that's a lot of very advanced dashboard design skills in Tableau. I hope you learn some of these and experiment with them in your projects and in your future work with Tableau. And I think that's the extent of what we need to learn in this lesson, in this video. Thank you for watching all this, and I hope you make good use of it. Okay, see you in class.